Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome back to the Expansion Pack Podcast, where you guys already know we download this week's gaming news, and of course, we bring it straight to you. This is episode 84. I am your host, Black Ice, joined by my co host each and every week on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you can get your podcast. We're going to start off with my guy over here to the right, Mr. Goop Master Flex. What's going on, my boy?
You already know, gooping, hooping, shooting. On video games only, though. We don't do anything illegal here, boys.
Okay. Man, he's a church boy, so he only keeps his debauchery online, in Grand Theft Auto and things of the sort. So, we gotta respect.
Keep the streets clean,
Gotta keep the streets clean. But yeah,
positive gooping.
We got my boy down low, Mr. 525. He's a little bit more gritty, keeping it a little bit crazier in the streets.
Hey, man. Hey, No, I didn't want to put that kind of reputation out there like that. I'm a strapping young gentleman who wouldn't harm a soul or a fly. Yes. That was totally believable, y'all. Stop trying to play me, man. Come on.
All right. If you say so, my friend.
Come on, man. Come on. Good.
Oh, man. What's going on, bro? You ready to talk about some games?
We here to talk about some damn games. I think today's going to be a cool discussion.
For sure, man. For sure.
I do.
We got some interesting things going on. Some leaks that for some things that might be going on next week. We got some new footage for God of War, and of course, it wouldn't be a normal week without some controversy this time around Halo. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But Chris, before we get into the topics, man, get us ready.
Y'all see, we got some new shit going on. And I like it. It's nice, right? All right, I'm sorry. All right, I'm playing. We ain't calling it the icebreaker no more. We're calling it the buffer now. We're switching it up. I think that goes a lot better with our theming and whatnot. So that's what we're going to call it, the buffer. Get the shit started. So for our buffer this week, the question is, with gaming becoming more of a, I want to say spectacle in a sense, just with the way technology is moving and the way how things are starting to become way more lifelike and more realistic in video games. The question is, what is that thing that if you've seen it in a video game, it would make you say, yo, that's a little too real for me. That's a little creepy. I ain't really fucking with that too much. What's that thing? Like, what's the thing that's like too much? If this makes any sense. So, for me, my answer for this one, this is gonna sound funny, but I don't think video games have gotten really good with how they do eyeball functionality and shit like that. It's gotten great, actually. However, they haven't gotten it to a point where it almost feels like those, them porcelain dolls? The ones that seem like they're looking at you and shit, like looking at you. I've never played a video game and gotten that feeling from anything that I've ever seen on a screen before. Even when the characters are looking dead on at me, it still doesn't actually feel like they're looking at me. You know what I'm saying? If they were able to somehow master eyeball movement and I guess reactions and mannerisms and shit like that to make it seem like this motherfucker is actually looking at me, that would creep me the fuck out. Especially if it's in like a horror game or some shit like that. Like, don't do that to me, bro. Like, I don't want to make no eye contact with this motherfucker. And then he just like, don't do that to me, bro. Like, please don't do that. Yeah, that would be the thing. It's a little too realistic. That eye thing, if they get that down, that'd be crazy. And I kind of feel like they're gonna get it in the next couple of years.
Have you played the Medium yet? Not that game looks crazy realistic or anything, but there's some like creepy moments with some
really
things. I mean, it's a creepy.
You guys beat that?
Like a eerie game, I guess.
I haven't beat that, man. We talked about the Medium, hyped it up, and I played that junk for like a weekend. What they click virtual dust.
I definitely got like about halfway through it, and I don't know. I couldn't finish it, and it wasn't because it was scary or anything like that, and it wasn't even that it was that bad. It was just like I just didn't go back. Like it's a decent game. It really is a decent game, and I think that studio is gonna do a good job with Silent Hill. And I think if they get the money, that Silent Hill game is one of those games where you might be having that conversation around like this shit's a little too creepy for me, bro. Like the eyes
Yeah.
tracking me this way and that way, and I don't think we're that far off, man. Because like
I don't
even
either. That's why I'm saying it.
yeah, like even that metahuman creator thing that Epic Games had going on, like the fidelity on that's pretty good, you know. So they could get the eye tracking down and do it in like a clever way. I think that would be it right there.
I'm not here for that. Like, you know how I feel about that starting at part to the Evil Within with the guy with the butcher knife.
Yeah,
I don't want to lock eyes with that dude. You know what I'm saying? Like that's too much. It is simply too much. I don't need that. I don't
I
need
think I think my answer might tie in a little bit into yours. Not like now that you just said something, it came pop in my head. But Manny, I'm gonna let you go first, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It's weird, but like when Chris was discussing his answer, it, like kind of reminded me of like how Metal Gear Solid 1 back in the days, like how they would like, I guess you could say, break the fourth wall in the sense where like you're fighting Psycho Mantis and he reads your every movement. In order for him to like not know your movements, you got to switch controller ports and shit like that. Like that used to be like, that used to be creepy back then.
That's
But
extreme. Yeah.
but now, yeah, nowadays, like the only thing that would really gross me out or creep me out is just like when they get like too realistic with the gore and stuff. You slice no bodies and you see their intestines and stuff when they come out. Like that gets a little creepy in my opinion because like you're like, damn, this is like you ain't got to do that. You can just do a little mild gore, but like a little too much. I don't know, but like once it gets to that kind of point, then yeah, I kind of like feel like that creeps me out.
I think a general consensus is like if they can get to the hyper realistic shit where it's like we really can't tell like in a movement standpoint because I think a lot of people looked at that Matrix demo and like how certain things were structured in the demos like you couldn't tell if it was actually like the footage of the original Matrix movie versus like the Unreal Engine 5 stuff but like that I feel like if it's like two people just standing in a room talking I don't know it's different when it's like in action gameplay so if you can get to that level of fidelity where it's hard to tell the difference between a video game and real life in like a horror standpoint, like a horror aspect game where you're actually like running around in different rooms and trying to fight whatever monster it might be. Like the closest thing I can think of is probably the Callisto Protocol right now because like the character model on the guy's face, I keep forgetting the actor's name, but it's like it's fucking creepy, bro. And like to see that particular guy just dying in really horrific ways is interesting. And if they get the fidelity of like the blood and guts coming out of him, that could be something that, might be pushing my boundaries a little bit. But I can tell you right now, they've already hit a threshold for me, and that's VR and horror games. I cannot do that shit. Like what, Resident Evil 7 was it? That they had that game on PlayStation VR. And it doesn't like it looks good, right? Like obviously that game looked really good, but playing that shit in VR, man, I don't know. And now they got Village in VR. Like fuck out of here. Village was a beautiful game, and I just remember, Manny, that scene. I know you remember the scene. I mean, most of y'all who've been watching the show for a while definitely know what scene I'm talking about. The scene where the fucking dick is basically running at you down the fucking hallway. Imagine playing that shit in VR, bro. I'm dead. Playing that for the first time in VR, you fucking walking down this creepy ass hallway and you got this weird baby dick looking thing like just fucking scooting down the hallway at you. Nah, bro. Take me. I'm done. That's it. I'm good.
Bruh.
Fuck that.
Wow.
So we ain't even need to get any further as far as fidelity and graphics and all that other stuff. It's just the medium that you're delivering the content to me in. If we're doing it all in VR, we're already at that point. Like I cannot handle that shit. Got me fucked.
Damn, bro. You know what's funny you say that? Like I remember when I was in Vegas, they have those little pods set up in different parts of the city where they're like it's like a VR experience or whatever. And I got in it. The girl gave me a good deal on the thing. And it was a horror game that they had set up on it. Bruh, I ain't played the Resident Evil, so I can't speak on that. But this shit was some janky ass graphic shit, but it still fucked me up. Because there's this one part where you're sitting in this chair and you're like in a pool that's not full, but in the middle of the pool, it's your chair like on a podium and you're just like strapped to it. And there's this thing. It's like an advanced liquor. You know what I'm saying? And you don't know where it's at. And then you just turn around and you do one of these. And this motherfucker is right here, bro. He right here. Bro, I know I probably made I don't want to say a scene, right? But like, I had a reaction. You know what I'm saying? I had a reaction.
He said, underwear was lost.
No, not that kind of reaction. Not that. It wasn't that bad, but it could have got there.
People there. Around
he was too close. I'm sure. Yeah. I had the headset on and shit too, so I couldn't even see their reactions to my reaction. But I already know. I made a damn fool.
Hey man, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the experience. That's what they're trying to get out of you. So give the people what they wanted, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I have VR as well, and I haven't played any crazy like scary games or anything like that. But there are certain moments, man. Like I was playing. There's a couple zombie games. And if you just lose track of motherfuckers, like they're slow moving, but if you lose track of one of them and they just in your face, you turn around, you're like, oh shit, like no, yeah. So a game where it's actually trying to scare you, forget about it. Forget about it. Can't even handle that at all, man. But yeah, I mean, like I said though, we're not far off, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, I do think there's like a threshold where like the actual traditional gaming is even getting to that point where it's like, all right, this is a little weird. Like, even if you take a game like, with the graphics of Callisto Protocol and like turn it into like a Saw game or something, that honestly, when you first proposed the question to us in our chat, that was kind of one of the first things that came to my mind was like, if they get the graphics to a point, with like what we've seen from Unreal Engine 5 or like some of these other games, and you're making like a Saw game where like it's really like, torture porn in the sense of like limbs getting chopped off and blood squirting everywhere and all of this stuff, like that might be a lot for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Oof, like Mortal Kombat does it, but Mortal Kombat isn't like, it's Mortal Kombat, it's like not.
And they do it in such a way where it's not like
it's comic booky almost. Yeah, exactly. Like it's like slapstick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like they're trying to go for like hyper realistic shit. Like I think they want realism up until a certain point, and then it's like, okay, we need to also remember that this is a comic booky / like cartoony isn't the right word, but you know what I mean. Like it's still a video game, like in the traditional thought process of what a video game is. Like now, I mean, at least what people used to think of video games is one thing, and now it's like obviously a very different business, and as far as art form and whatnot, like to the point where they're using video game engines in actual movies. So it's interesting. But yeah, you already know. I mean, what this time in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, I mean, graphics are going to be at a crazy ass place. Like we're moving at a very, very fast rate. So I can only imagine like the next generation of consoles when those come out, like where we'll be at with like PC graphics, like traditional computer graphics, with where ray tracing will go and all that other stuff is scary. Very scary. But yeah, Chris, thank you for the buffer for this week, because it's definitely something interesting to think about. We obviously talk about graphics all the time. It's obviously one of the first things that comes up when we talk about games and new games and whatnot. So, hoping to see where the technology goes in a few years is going to be fun. Yeah. But we're going to talk about some other games here. We're going to get into our stories for the week. The first thing we're going to get into here is a game that I can't remember. Was this like officially announced already? Was it like a leak that we saw like months ago or what? But The Division Heartlands has come up again in the news. I guess Ubisoft prematurely put up a whole storefront or a whole page on their storefront for the game. It's apparently going to be a free-to-play game, survival, on PvP type of a mode, and I mean, I don't know what to say about it anymore. I'm just like, yo, I've been expecting them to announce this for forever, or expecting it to have been released for forever, because I feel like we talked about it so long ago. I think there was like a leak on footage and whatnot, and I don't know. I mean, it seems like we're about to get it, because um, basically, I think September 10th is Ubisoft's event, Ubisoft Forward. Like, there's a pretty good chance that the game is going to get announced there and released there as well. Since it's a free to play game, they tend to kind of try to shadow drop free to play games in that facet. So I suspect on Saturday we'll be able to download it, try it out, all that good stuff. But I don't know, man. I'm interested in this, right? Because I think one of the most interesting things about the Division was the PvP mode, like with the Dark Zone and all that stuff. And it's unfortunate that it's not something that I really ever got to get into. And Chris, I know you and I played Division 2. We didn't really get a chance to dive into it too much, but I think the idea of this game could be a big deal. I'm still not sure if it's supposed to be like a battle royale type of thing or what, but I don't know. I mean, what are we thinking on this? Is this something we're all gonna try out? I mean, could we hop up on a stream for this? Manny, what do you think, bro?
It is free to play, so I doubt that we're not gonna at least try it once. So I'm just surprised it took them this long, because I think we first started talking about this game last year around E3 time, and now we're finally getting something. But if coming soon is after this Ubisoft Forward event, that would be great, because, well, actually not. I wouldn't say it would be great thinking about it now, because right now we're in the good end of games releasing. Well, we just got Madden, Saints Row, a new JoJo game for the anime boys, 2K coming out this Friday. So like, I just feel like it sucks that it is coming out around this time if it were to come out with the next couple of weeks. But at the same time, it's like finally we're getting something, because we talked about this game like for a long time. So
yeah, I just want it to be good. If it's good, I don't really care necessarily what time frame it comes out in. But I will say, to your point, we had a drought this, for the good chunk of the summer. Like, June would have been a perfect time for this game, Give us the whole summer.
Definitely.
Bang this out. People would have been hyped about it. People would have been streaming it, all this other stuff. Why now? Why September?
Yeah.
Just another Ubisoft L. They did it last year with Riders Republic, and looks like they're doing it again.
Yeah. But I think the bigger problem with Riders Republic was also that it's a $60 game. And that's where I'm like, bro, if you make that free to play, or even just make it half price, like that is one of those games where it doesn't matter when it came out. If it was free, because it's so it's not competing with anything. It's such a different experience than anything else that's out there. You're in essence not competing with shooters and things like that. Whereas this, obviously would be competing with a shooter directly. So like if they drop this when Modern Warfare comes out, probably a very, very bad decision. But like Riders Republic, you could have dropped that anytime and made that shit free, and people would have been like, huh, let me go check that out, But making it $60 is rough. But maybe Ubisoft learned a lesson. Maybe that's what what they learned a lesson with as far as this game goes. But I think I don't know. The cool thing about this, at least, is that we can confirm that something's coming out, and we know that this Ubisoft Forward event won't be like rehashing necessarily old shit. Like this is the first time we'll actually see this game in action. There's a rumor that we're supposed to be seeing the new Assassin's Creed. So hopefully there's some more stuff to come out of this event than just the basic shit. I know we were expecting Ubisoft to do something a little bit early in the summer, anyways. But I don't know. I'm curious about this. Obviously we were still waiting on Sony to do their thing. There's gonna be like a slight drought as far as news goes, because PAX just happened. I think it's happening this past weekend. It happened. We didn't get any big news out of it or anything along those lines. So any events are always a good thing for us. But Chris, what do you think, man? You excited to play this game? You excited to see what Ubisoft's got going on?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to play the game. Especially if it has potential for battle royale and all that stuff. I'm curious to see what the next iteration of battle royale is going to be. But the one thing I don't like is like, I feel like Ubisoft's handling a lot of this shit very sloppy. And it's to the point now, excuse me, where they got so many of these little subtitles that they're working on, and then not really putting much news out for and stuff like that. That I'm starting to forget which is which and which was supposed to be which. You know what I'm saying? Because like they had this Heartland title, then they had the one that released on Game Pass a couple months back. I can't remember what it was called. And then there's the X Defiant thing that they're supposed to be working on too, which is a PvP based game.
That hasn't even released.
And it's like, dude, what are y'all doing, man? Y'all don't even try to like put up like screenshots of gameplay, not even like trailers. Like y'all give people nothing. It's like you do a little vague announcement with very little real details, and then you do a whole year of info drought. That's mad weird to me, man. Like I don't get that.
Well, that's the thing that's got me fucked up about this game. Did they announce this, or was this like a leak that we found out? Because like I'm really confused right now. Like I know X Defiant is one of those games that actually got announced because I remember the trailer, I remember the developer deep dive and all this other stuff. I remember that. The Division, I can't even remember if that shit actually got announced or if it was like an afterthought in another post about. I feel like that might have been what it was. Like they were talking about the future of the Division, and they were like, at some point we're coming out with this Heartland thing, and they didn't really give any definitive information about it. I think we speculated on what it might be. But yeah, like shit got me fucked up, bro. It's just that simple. Like I'm throwing off, It's weird.
The fact that you have to even ask that question is a problem with me. Mm-hmm. Like their release schedule and what the games are supposed to mean and all that shit should be clear and concise from jump. You know what I'm saying? And it feels like they're just throwing darts at random subtitles, trying to hope one of them sticks somewhere, but then there's not like a lot of focus on one or all of them, to be honest with you. Like this shit should have been a whole roadmap where y'all knew exactly what you was doing and how you was going to do it. Because like you said, it should have probably been released back in June. What's the difference between June and September? Like barely anything. So like you probably could have released it back then.
I'm assuming the game wasn't. I definitely have to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm assuming the game wasn't ready, right? Like, and we talk about this all the time. Games get released before they're
that's true.
Should be.
That's true.
So we don't want that. But it is like I don't know, like could have threw a little bit more resources at it to squash the bugs in a better manner, like to not wait till September to release the game. I don't know. I'm sure there's reasonings behind it, and usually I always err on the side of if developers need more time, give them more time, because with this franchise, as it is, it's like the Division 2 came, it had its issues. You and I, Chris, enjoyed it a lot. And then it just kind of faded out, faded into the background. Like they released content for it, yada, yada, yada. But I don't know. It was what it was. So I feel like if you're going to come back with it, you have to make sure you're doing it correctly. You're not just throwing something out there just to make money, So I think the Division's a property that's always had potential. People have always looked at it. I remember when the first one came out and it was like this whole like visual showcase, and people were like, holy shit, you could do this and that and da 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 da. Like it was like, I think it came out on the Xbox One initially, and it like just looked beautiful, and everybody was just had all these high expectations for the game, and it came out and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't really what it should have been, And then 2 came out, and I still have to say, like, that game was visually striking, and the audio in that game, that was one of my first experiences with Dolby Atmos. Holy shit, that game is beautiful with all of that stuff put together. So I'm hoping they can take all of that tech and like make a really cool PvP VE type of situation. It honestly kind of sounds like what Naughty Dog's trying to do with this Last of Us multiplayer game. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some overlap in like the gameplay stylings, but I'm sure the Naughty Dog game will be much better. But speaking of Naughty Dog, random pivot here. More just talking about PlayStation, I guess, at the end of the day. But we did get some new God of War footage that I initially thought it leaked, but apparently it came from us directly from Game Informer here. So we got, I think it's like about a 1.5-minute video of the new combat from God of War Ragnarok, which is weird that it's come out in this format, because I feel like we got a couple. We got a whole like deep dive from Sony, right? But I don't feel like we got a good grasp on the combat, at least in the way that I've seen it from this video. Like combat from this video is smooth. It just looks like a lot of fun. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it feels different enough from the first God of War. Well, you know what I mean, like the original one in this new chapter, this new saga. I don't want to say trilogy because I guess it's not supposed to be a trilogy, but I don't know, Manny. You're a big God of War fan here, so I'll always defer to you on this one. But what did you think of the footage that you saw? Because to me, it looked different. This was the first time where I was like, all right, bet. Like I already wanted to play this, but now I'm like, all right, this feels like a sequel to me. What do you think?
Yeah, it's crazy how this is kind of like really the only first gameplay footage we've seen, and it goes like tie into what Chris said earlier. Where it's like games are like slowly releasing more without showing any gameplay. For example, like Madden, but like hopefully we get a little bits and more pieces of what we are to expect with God of War releasing.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely noticed that trend of more and more games not showing as much, not having demos and full gameplay experiences to show up before it releases. And I think part of that has to do with like COVID and like the crunch of game development nowadays. Like instead of pooling resource, because like they have to put together those types of showcases, where like putting together a trailer or putting together gameplay footage, so on and so forth. Like that takes some time, like especially when you're in the middle of development, you have to make sure that whatever you're showcasing doesn't have bugs and so on and so forth. So like sometimes those things can take quite a bit of time. Like I know, in the past when E3 was still prominent, they would talk about how creating a vertical slice for E3 would take them like 6 months, and that's 6 months away from game development. So I think it makes sense that we're seeing less and less of that stuff nowadays. Hopefully, we get back to it because obviously we all want to get a better feel and taste of the game before it comes out, especially if we're going to be spending 60 to $70 on games. But yeah, you're right. It's weird that this God of War, we haven't really seen as much, and then the stuff that we did see, I think I was one of the first people who was like, this feels like more of the same. But now seeing this combat stuff, it doesn't. It feels a little different. I'm a lot more excited than I was before to dive back into Ragnarok. Come this fall. And Chris, what do you think, bro?
So I didn't think anything I saw looked bad, but how do I put this? It's not even that I don't think that the fighting mechanics look new, but nothing. It wasn't anything that kind of like blew me away or made me like hella excited. I think with some of these action RPG games, I get to a point where there's not too much that they can really do to excite me in terms of new fighting mechanics. I'm when you get to a point where you have a game like God of War where it's had so many different sequels and so many different iterations and they've done a lot of different things with the combats and all that stuff. It's at the point for me where it's like it's cool whatever you guys do with the combat as long as it's fluid. I'm more here for the small quality of life changes that make the game better, but more importantly, just give me a fucking good story. Like that's literally all I'm asking for with these type of games now. It's not, oh my god, did they get this gun burst right? Like they're gonna get it right with how they get it right. Is the story good? If the story's bad, I don't give a damn how fluid the fight mechanics are. If the story is bad, it's a shit game to me.
You're right. You're right.
That's why yeah, and I say that in a way of respect, in a sense, because they built themselves to get that from me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you guys have done a lot of good work with your franchise. Just give me a good story now. I trust you guys with almost everything else. Yeah, it looks new, but it's not. Oh my god, woo! Like there's not a lot of things I can think of that they could throw in the game that's gonna really give me that reaction. When I think of a game like Horizon. Although I kind of look at it in the same boat as a God of War, it's an action RPG with, upgradable, skill trees and all that bullshit. But it's only got 2 games out. So like I still haven't seen all of the things that they probably have to offer. We probably haven't seen everything that they have to offer with God of War either, but it's way less room for excitement in terms of something new. Because it almost feels like I've seen them try almost everything already. And it's not a bad thing. Just it's not a oh my god thing either,
I think for me, it's the the level of fidelity running at from what I interpreted to be 60 frames. Like it was very fluid, and that's not like a common thing. Like even now in this generation of games, like it's not common to have a game with that level of quality running at 60 frames as fluid as that seemed to be running. Like the way like basically Kratos like uses his chains to get up on a platform, uses the axe to free somebody, and then the particle effects of the way that looked, and then he knocks him off the edge, and then that creates like a freeze effect across the floor, and then he jumps down and like does this move, and none of it was necessarily like a pre-canned animation. It was like, okay, you could tell that the user's like controlling all of this, and for it to all be running fluidly, that's not something that's very common in the industry right now. It's just not like, and you would think it would be, right? Like, and it's not like we're talking about like Call of Duty, like first person shooter running at 60 frames fluid. That we've seen enough of to be used to, like to see it in this action RPG type of, like experience where the graphics look the way they look and for it to be the way it was. Like at least from the little snippet that I saw, like I don't think I've seen something like that before. And it could be a small thing, but like it's just like, all right, this is like a vote of confidence that like, all right, I haven't seen this before in a God of War game or in like an action RPG at this level. So for me, I'm like, all right, cool. These are like little things that need to push the industry forward. And I think like, even though I guess it's kind of something where this should have been happening, this should be the standard. The fact that it's happening tells me like, there's more good things to come down the road. Not even just from God of War, but like other games and whatnot. Like the technology is there where we need it to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's all we really have to say, because there really isn't much else to say about God of War right now. We're still waiting to see a couple more things. Hopefully, with this rumored Sony event that should be happening within the next 2 weeks, supposedly sometime in September. I'm hoping we get a little bit more information about God of War, see a little bit more gameplay beyond just that combat snippet and whatnot. Like I just want to see more. I want to get a better feel for the game.
Yeah.
So we'll see what comes of that. But the last thing we want to talk about today is this controversy around Halo Infinite, or just the state of Halo Infinite in general, right? So this past week, 343 Industries dropped a brand new roadmap for the game. Basically, the first thing they announced was that Season 3 of Halo Infinite is getting delayed. It was supposed to come out, or the current season was supposed to end November 7th, and presumably you would think that the new season would start at that same time. They're basically saying that it's getting pushed to March now, which has some people in an uproar. But the big thing that people are upset about, which, to be quite honest with you, I'm not entirely sure why that's the big thing they're upset about, but people are really upset that they've canceled the couch co-op portion of Halo Infinite. So they're coming out with campaign co-op, but it's going to be online only, so no couch co-op. And I don't know. I feel like not many games have couch co-op, so I guess like when 343 promised it, it was like, all right, like that's like a win for people, and they were really anticipating it. So I guess I can understand in that standpoint, but some of the other things that they're announcing is pretty cool, just to kind of run it all down. So basically what they're saying is that this update that's going to be coming November is going to be like a winter update for this season 1. Season 2, I should say. So basically we're going to get the Forge beta finally. And if you guys haven't listened to the podcast, this has been something that I've been looking forward to, because I really think this is one of the things that could actually save Halo, aside from them putting out their Battle Royale mode. Like Forge is a big deal, and it sounds like they're really, ramping up like the fidelity of Forge, like the amount of things that people have to play around with in the sandbox. And I don't know if any of you remember playing Halo 3 when Forge like initially kind of made its debut, but that was like a mode that gave us some of my favorite moments playing Halo, like Griff Ball. I remember they had the zombies mode in there, and that all came about from Forge and custom games. Like just endless hours and hours and hours of fun with that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the community comes up with on with Infinite, and hopefully it's like a brand new ball game entirely. So we're also getting some new maps. One of the maps they've actually admitted there was made completely in Forge, so that I'm going to be pretty excited to see how that turns out. And yeah, there's a couple things here and there, like a couple new modes and whatnot, but for the most part, it's mainly just quality of life improvements, some new maps, the campaign co-op, and then Forge. In my eyes, the big thing. And then when Season 3 comes out in March, we're supposed to be getting 2 more new maps, some new equipment, and a new weapon. And they did say in their live stream that there may be some more things to come. And I think that they're being very purposely non-committal, especially after letting people down with this, couch co-op fiasco. But I do think there's some more things to come with this season 3. So, as we've always talked about this game, right? Like we always talked about whether it's dead, like all the other things around it. We know it came out with a very strong launch in comparison to some other games that came out around the time. But content has been the big issue. Just not having the content that it needs to have at the right time frame that it needs to have it. And that's honestly one of the things that they talked about in the live stream that I watched. I think I forget the term they used. It was like seasonality or something. I don't know why they had to attach a buzzword to it. But basically, they said that, that their big focus is coming out with content in a timely manner and making sure that it's dispersed out properly so that people aren't waiting, aren't getting tired of waiting for new things to come out for Halo. And I think that Halo, the caliber of game it is, it deserves that. I think players, it is a free to play game, but at the same time, there's just a lot there. It's a good game and there's a lot there that could be done with it. And it just seems like it's being underutilized. So with that being said, I want to get you guys' take on this because there's been all types of stuff going on the internet. You know how Twitter is. It's a hot take factory. People are calling for everybody and their mother to get fired from 343. They're calling for Bonnie Ross, the head of Halo, will basically say, calling for her to get ousted because she hasn't been doing much well with the franchise supposedly. I don't know. I mean, I definitely agree that there could be more done, but I definitely want to get you guys' take on this stuff. So, Chris, I'm gonna start with you, man. What do you think is going on with Halo? What do you think can be done better? Should people be losing their jobs?
Yeah, I don't know if it's that deep for people, but I do think they need to wake up a little bit for sure. Like, I don't know. It's weird, man. We gave them a lot of praise when they dropped their beta, and everybody was like, yo, the gameplay's so smooth, and this is the shit. And they released a finished product compared to Battlefield and everybody else, which they did do. The game is a pretty complete feeling game. It's just like you said, the content ain't there, and it's just like I don't know if there was an issue with their own internal, schedule for when they wanted to release content, or if it's a lack of manpower, or I really couldn't tell you. I don't think this is a controversy. I think people are blowing that shit out of proportion. Mm-hmm. A controversy, like, come on. But I will say it's one of those things where it's like, I know people don't use the couch co-op often. I know it's like one of those ancient things. Motherfuckers don't like going over each other's houses no more and playing games. I get that. But it's one of those things where it's like, why did you get rid of it though? Like what? I can't imagine it's so resource intensive and all that kind of stuff that it's like, yo, we need to just like not have it. You know what I mean? Like why not just still include it for the folks who still want to enjoy that kind of thing? Because there is times where I watch certain videos, even on YouTube, man, and some of these content creators that get together and do summits and shit like that, and they do it with games like Smash, and they do it with all these other games, and it's like, why take it out just to take it out? Like, is there some cost there that like you're saving on? Like, what's going on for y'all to just take it out?
You mind if I interject real quick? Because I actually have a theory as to why it got taken out, and I feel like it's important to say this now so that we can all discuss on that. I think the biggest thing holding this game back right now is that they are trying so hard, and they made a commitment to it, so I understand it. But they're trying to cater to the Xbox One, the OG Xbox One.
Oh,
I think that's the big problem. I think that's the reason why they can't get couch co-op going, because people have been able to glitch into couch co-op right now. Like it's working for some people. They found ways to get that to work. So I think the bones of it are there. I just think that it probably runs like complete ass on an Xbox One, even a One X. And I think that they don't want to release that as a product to say this is it when it doesn't work properly on a certain subset of systems. And I think that this game would be so much better served if they just said, this is now a PC and Xbox Series family game. So Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X, and PC. Boom, that's it. I think it would be so much better done. And I think what you could do and what they should have done is get the cloud gaming thing going and say, okay, you can play this cloud gaming on an Xbox One, just like you did with Flight Simulator. But Yeah, I don't know, man. I think if they can finally just cut off the arbitrage that basically the tumor that is the Xbox One, with this game, I think it would make such a difference. It'd probably give them so much more room
Yeah.
to run and do all these different things. But now I think with content, you have to, okay, we're building this thing, we're building this thing, we're building this thing. We have to make sure it works on Xbox One. We have to make sure it works on Series S. We have to make sure it works on Series X and PC. And I feel like those last three that I mentioned are pretty easy to get to work together because they're all essentially using a very similar architecture. They're all in the same place right now as far as like RDNA and all that other stuff. But yeah, that One X, man, it's just underpowered and things are not running well.
Yeah.
I just think they need to just let it go.
That's a good point. I'm gonna be real. I completely forgot to think about the One X being a thing, and them trying to cater to it. That might be it. That might for sure be it, man. Because yeah, that's so annoying. I'm sorry I had to say it like that. And I know a lot of people out there can't get their hands on a thing, or they can't find one, or it's out of their pockets or whatever. But like, motherfuckers gotta suffer because of y'all, though, bro. Like that shit is trash, though. Like, I don't know. It's one of those. I get where they're coming from. I know why they want to do it like this, but I wonder if they're considering that they may actually be hurting themselves in the long run doing it this way. Because I know the whole idea is like you want to put it on all platforms to be accessible because it's a money thing and all that kind of stuff. But what if in the long run, because they keep doing stuff like this, they end up losing the momentum and shit that they should have been able to garner by now? You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know how you quantify that, but like that's.
Mm-hmm.
I
wonder if they wonder about that.
I
know what you mean.
Joe Staten, Bonnie Ross, Phil Spencer, I think all them people are in there having meetings about that, or have had meetings about that. I really think that had to have come up a number of times. And I think if they didn't stake the flag in the ground so early on to say this is going to happen on both, like all these systems and they made sure that, it's the flexibility of all these different, like basically their business model of being able to not have generations of like, okay, like this is only going to be on this system and this is only going to be on that system. Like, I feel like some of that stuff is really biting them in the ass. And I think if they could have got the cloud gaming thing done sooner, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But yeah, I don't know. Manny, what do you think, man?
I don't know. I just feel like I understand there's a lot of things going on, and like you mentioned, they have to worry about 2 generations of consoles. But at the same time, it's like it's not like this game released early where it's like, okay, it's like buggy and everything like that. It's not like that. It's like this game released a year after it was initially supposed to be released, and it's a free-to-play shooter game that you're expecting, tons of people to play. I mean, I can't say there's an excuse for them, because let's look at games like Fortnite. And I know you could argue Fortnite started off in the Xbox One generation, but I mean, they're everywhere. They're on Xbox Ones, they're on Switches, mobile, everything, and millions of people still play and enjoy the game. There should be no excuse why Halo Infinite isn't producing as much content as they should. The fact that season 2 is basically a year long is ridiculous, in my opinion. And the fact that they even took from November all the way to April just to get to season 2. If you want to compete in the free-to-play market, you got to keep on updating the game with content that people are going to enjoy.
Absolutely.
Excuse me. But like the couch co-op thing, I can understand why people's pissed. Don't promise something that you're not going to do in the end. Like, that's the kind of things we don't need in this kind of gamers market, because then what's the point, like, of supporting your company if you're just going to lie to me? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that they're fine. They're still adding more game modes, but it still feels slim. I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't played since season 2 update. So I mean, there might be more modes, but like the fact that they're only adding 3 more game modes, is there even like Griffball? Is there even like Infected that we all love and everything like that? Probably not. Like, the game is still slim with what there is to offer. Like, if you go back to games back then, like Halo 3 or Halo Reach and even Halo 5, they probably had a lot more game modes when it launched, and it's just boring, in my opinion. That's the reason why I don't even touch the game anymore, because there's like nothing to do for it. You know what I'm saying?
It's pretty much only competitive, and that's kind of the problem. It's really the only reason you're gonna pick up that game is to play it like competitively, or play the rank modes, play SWAT. Like the things that we loved about the old school Halos, where you're diving into Griffball, like you said, and some of those other modes, Infected, like they're just not there. Now again, they're coming now because we got Forge and we got the custom games like browser thing. So like that stuff's coming, but yeah, I think the fact that it wasn't there day one sucks. And I the only thing I'll push back on is can't compare them to Fortnite because Unreal Engine is like it's just a different beast entirely. Like Unreal Engine is basically designed to run on literally everything, and they came out with a brand new engine. I don't think that it was optimized the way they wanted it to be optimized, and I don't know. That's ultimately what boils down to the problems of being, that kind of is like the underlining thing of me saying, okay, they shouldn't be worrying about Xbox One at this point because I don't think the engine that they've created, while it's like new and has all these interesting things that it can do, whatever, what have you, like it's definitely not something that is working the way they want it to work on Xbox One. So they should have just been like, cut ties, keep it moving. They should have never made the promises that they made, without being sure that they could really deliver on them. And that's the biggest problem, I think, above it all. I don't think it's a big controversy, but I think, making the promise of putting the game on Xbox One and whatnot, that was a bad move. Making the promise of, okay, we're going to do, couch co-op when we're like, they probably knew already that they were having some issues and they thought maybe we'd iron them out. Like that's an issue. Like you said, like this market isn't, everybody's already skeptical enough as it is, like everybody thinks that companies are lying to them because for the most part, we've seen a history of companies actually doing that. I don't think that that's what's happening in this case. I don't think that they were like, oh, we're going to tell people this one thing. And now after they got the game, they're going to switch it up on them. Like, I think that they really tried. And I think that, it couldn't happen because of the things that we already talked about. And it sucks. And I don't know.
I'm gonna say this one last thing. Oh, my bad.
The only last thing I was gonna say was I think I still believe that they're because it's Halo and Halo's a name, right? But I also think the core of the game is still good. So it's not like a Battlefield or some of the other games we talked about where it's like, all right, you have all these content bugs, that are happening in the game, and you're turning people off in that regard. Like it had a good launch. I still think there's some opportunity for people to come back, and obviously we know that the history of the industry with games like No Man's Sky and things like that. Even if they did have a buggy launch, there's a chance that they could come back. But I think this is in a better place than most games. So we'll see what happens. But Manny, what were you gonna say?
Nah, I was just gonna say one last thing. One thing that does scare me is the simple fact that it did take them this long to figure out, okay, we're not doing couch co-op. And Forge is coming out in November and stuff like that. Like, I'm worried that the R&D team aren't like looking at the right things. Like, first of all, this was promised to come out early this year, but there was like delays upon delays upon delays, and it's like if that's what they're mostly focused on, then it's like it's I just don't understand why you're focusing more on that kind of thing. The whole campaign with the co-op and stuff like that, instead of like more on like multiplayer heavy focused.
Well, they're focusing on it because they promised it. That's the problem. I think. Like, yeah, it's like you shouldn't promise.
Like you shouldn't. You should have canned it earlier because you wasted so much time doing it, and it's like now you're wasting more resources that could have been done on multiplayer all the way into like campaign that should have been good day one when it released.
So now the question becomes like, are they at the point where it's like, all right, we've decided that we're going to start chopping off the shit that really at the end of the day isn't important and isn't possible. And now we're really going to focus on the content that, the broader majority of people want, which is really all the multiplayer stuff. And like the way they were talking about it, it sounds like that, but it's like one of those things where it's like, all right, well, like, we have to really see, like I think season 3 is going to be a big inflection point for them. If season 3, like we get closer to season 3 and they're not announcing more things than what they've already announced in this roadmap, I think we're in for some real trouble personally. Like, I think if we're not getting teases for, that fucking battle royale mode that they were talking about, if we're not getting teases for more things and seeing more things come out of season 3, they're fucked. and it's unfortunate, but you can't be 3 seasons deep and people still saying, "Yo, there's no content here." Like that's not good. You
Yeah.
know, even being in season 2 and people feeling like the content is, dry basically. And it's like there's not as much in the game. Like to be getting to 3 seasons in and still not have uh the level of modes and the level of things compared to Halo 5 or 4 or 3 is like that's a problem. And we've talked about like they moved to a new engine. There are things that have changed about the game. And just by essence of the game being called Halo Infinite, I do think that they are still pushing for this to be the game of the like forever, essentially. Like, this is the game that they'll continue to iterate on for years and years. And I think it's just off to a really rough start as far as content goes. Everything else about the core game is great. Like, and I actually do kind of want to go back in and play the co-op with with people online and stuff like that, because the co-op the campaign was pretty good. But yeah, I don't know, man. Again, as always, we're on a wait and see mode with this stuff, but I really, really want more from season 3 than I've seen so far. And maybe Forge really is the answer. I tend to lean towards thinking that Forge is going to make a lot of things better in some aspects, but I need to see more from 343. I need to see just more conversations.
The thing is, like, is there even going to be enough interested players to even tap onto Forge? Like, I was looking at the player count. It's like less than 5,000 players on Steam, and the PC market itself is huge, and it's I can't imagine the console numbers. I mean, it might be a little higher, but still,
I definitely think the console numbers are higher. But I also think once you have like, it's been proven that once a game has like I wouldn't call Forge modding per se, but it's probably the closest thing to it. Like once you add some sort of mod support into a game, like the life on it tends to increase, specifically from a PC standpoint. So I think if we'll take a look and see where Forge or where Halo is once Forge releases, and look at the concurrent player count, and then we can kind of get an understanding of what's going on. But I think the majority of the things that we're going to see from Forge is going to come from the PC community, and we'll see how that goes. And there's another thing too is Steam is one aspect of it, but like the Xbox, it's available on the Xbox launcher and things like that. So who knows, as far as those numbers, like what they actually look like. But I don't know. I'm always gonna pull for Halo because it's Halo. It's like it's a part of my childhood. Just like you over there rooting for Saints Row. Like I'm always gonna be rooting for Halo. So I'm hoping that they get it pulled together, because 343 definitely needs to work on some things. And I also think that if you guys remember, like I think when the game had got delayed, they made a ton of changes at the leadership positions. So they could still be cleaning up some of that mess. It's possible. I mean, if things weren't going well, it could take over 2 years to get that stuff cleaned up. Who knows? But if the people who are in the position now aren't getting it done, I do think you might have to make some rearrangements. I'm not saying just fire people outright, but you may have to bring some other people in, some new ideas in. Try to get that game off the ground, because it's Halo, and if this is going to be the game, for the foreseeable future, like I don't think it's too late to get it fixed. So we shall see, boys. We shall see.
For sure.
Yeah, but I think this is probably a good place to leave it off. We'll get back to talking about some more games next week, of course. Like we said earlier, we got the Ubisoft Forward event that's coming on Saturday, so we'll definitely be talking about that next week. Hopefully we'll see some cool stuff on Assassin's Creed, and then of course the Division Heartland, and hopefully we'll get some news on that Sony press conference, or that Sony showcase, because I'm really, really looking forward to that. I want a confirmation on Spider-Man 2 being co-op. I need that because there's some rumors floating around on that one, and I'll be pretty excited about it. Oh, and the last thing too, we're definitely going to talk about this next week. There's supposedly going to be a big Cyberpunk reveal of some sort. They're having a live stream. They're going to talk a little bit about the Netflix show that's coming out, and then they're also saying that they're going to talk about what's coming next to the game. So hopefully it's something good. Hopefully it's newsworthy at least. We'll be talking about it either way. Either we're going to be clowning Cyberpunk, or we're going to be praising them this time around. So we'll see what's up. All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching and listening. As always, if you're on the YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on all the platforms. On Twitter at XPack Pod, on Instagram at XPack Pod, on TikTok at Xpansion Pack Podcast. And just talk to us, guys. Let us know what's up. Leave us some comments down below. You know the thing. Thank you guys again for watching and listening. See you guys next week. Peace.
Yeah.